Hey there everybody, this is Robin with Creative2xmom. And in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my spring reading list. So welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin and this is Creative2xmom. This channel is all about homeschooling, parenthood, and thriving in the day-to-day. In today's video I am filming on the first day of spring. It's pretty outside but a little bit stormy, and so I thought I would share with you my spring reading list. Every 3 months or so, I post a video like this one, sharing with you the things that I want to read because my list is ever growing. I create these lists to keep myself on track and to remember the next books that I want to read. Like I said, there are so many books that I want to read, so each season I try to sit down and say, okay, what are my priorities that I want to knock off that list? Typically, my reading lists are very nonfiction heavy, and I don't know what happened this season. I think it's the spring weather. I got really into pulling some fictional reads for the next several months, so let's get into it. So I'm going to share with you my nonfiction reads first, and I only have 2 nonfiction reads, and they're both coming from the library, so I will insert pictures. The first one is called Glow Kids by Nicholas Kadaris. Okay, so the last couple of years we have been doing the 1,000 Hours Outside Challenge. I posted a video in January sharing some highlights from 2022, which I will link down below. And through following those podcasts, I've really been introduced to some great reads about technology and its effect on our kids, and that's how I happened to find Glow Kids. I've requested this one from my library. It was published, I think 2015. So it's not everywhere, but it's a little bit more readily available, so check your library first. This is the synopsis from Amazon. We've all seen them, kids hypnotically staring at glowing screens in restaurants, playgrounds, and at friends' homes, and the numbers are growing. And that's really true. I mean, how many of us have not seen this phenomenon? So, in Glow Kids, Dr. Nicholas Kadaris will examine how technology, more specifically age-inappropriate screen tech with all of its glowing ubiquity, has profoundly affected the brains of an entire generation. That's what really got me into this book, was seeing the physical effect that technology is having on our kids. We all see the social effects, I think, but what is it physically doing to our kids that could potentially be irreversible? This is a phenomenon that my teenage son and I talk about all the time, and I wanted to get a little deeper into the science of it. The second book on my reading list is also coming from the library. It's called See You at the Campground. This is another book, an author that I was introduced to through the 1,000 Hours Outside podcast, and we love to camp, and that's actually where I make up a lot of our hours. Is we will take a 4 or 5 day camping trip a couple times throughout the summer, and that's where a lot of our 1,000 Hours Outside comes from. My husband loves to camp, and I'm always looking for new ways to make it easier on our family of 5. So the subtitle of this one is A Guide to Discovering Community, Connection, and a Happier Family in the Great Outdoors. Plan the best family-friendly summer camping vacation. So that's why I'm reading it in the spring. I'm excited for the summer. I'm hoping this has some great tips and ideas. Apparently this is one in a series of camping books. I think that the author is coming out with a 3rd this year. But this one seemed the most applicable to us. The others I think are more specific to certain areas. So I wanted to just get the general book first, hoping it has some good ideas for our summer. And that was it as far as nonfiction reads. I'm sure I will add to this pile. There have been a couple of others that have been on my radar, either The Tech-Wise Family by Andy Crouch or Technologic by Lee Benz. Lee Benz I haven't heard a whole lot about, but the other one was recommended by that podcast. I don't know if I'll pick either of them up, but I probably will because that's sort of the train of thought that I have been on lately. Okay, let's talk fiction. Fiction is typically the smallest category that I have in these videos, but for whatever reason, this spring season, I had several that I wanted to read. The first one is The One and Only Ruby is another Catherine Applegate book. If you've heard of The One and Only Ivan, we've read that one. And there's also The One and Only Bob. We have not read that one, but after Ruby, I think that we might go back and check it out. This is going to be a review book for me, so I will just read to you the basic premise of the book. Ruby's story picks up a few months after the events of the one and only Bob. Now living in a wildlife sanctuary, Ruby's caretaker from the elephant orphanage in Africa where she grew up is visiting. Seeing him again brings back a flood of memories, both happy and sad, about her life before the circus. And she recounts the time she spent on the African savannah to Ivan and Bob. This is going to be a cute kids book. It's for ages 8 to 12. I'm going to be reviewing it, and just knowing that it's about elephants, I'm excited to read that one. My next fiction book is also a review book. It's called The Weaving of Life by Linda Byler. This is part of a new series which is called New Directions. This is the first one in a series of 2 so far. And we are following, of course, Amish fiction, which is a great love of mine. It should be an easy, fun read for the spring as we're finishing up school and I'm completely distracted by fiction. Be on the lookout for a review of that one coming up in April. Besides those 2 review books, I also have 3 other fiction books that I'm hoping to read in the upcoming months. The first one is Swiss Family Robinson by Johann Weiss. I've probably read this book. This is at least the 3rd time I've read this one, if not more. I was first introduced to this book in junior high about the age that I was that my son is right now. He's 11. We are reading this one as part of our language arts curriculum. I was just going to have him read it, but I have such an affinity for this book that I have been reading it along with him. We're taking it in short chunks, but I think we're going to be done with this one either at the end of March or the beginning of April. It's a classic. If you've not read it before, I cannot recommend it highly enough. Like I said, I have read it over multiple times, and so I'm adding it to the spring. The second book that I have here with me is The Kaya Girl. This is a new author. It's by MacLeod. This was on a new release shelf at my library, and it's about 2 girls who befriend each other in the marketplace, very different backgrounds. Come to find out, one of them is an immigrant and the other is the shopkeeper's niece. And so they are trying to work against a language barrier as well, and just 2 very different backgrounds of these girls and how they connect despite the obstacles that they have. I'm reading this one as sort of a pre-read to possibly pass it on to one of my kids. I love that it's set in another country. I love that it's set in another culture, and it introduces the idea of immigrants in hopefully a gentler way. This is recommended. I was thinking there might be ages on this one, but the girls are both 14, and there have been some mentions of crushes, so maybe that kind of gives you an idea of where your kid would fall, even if they're interested in that at all. I think my little guy would probably not quite be into this book, but maybe my daughter will. So I'm reading along to see what I think. The third one, I'm going back to classics, love classics. I didn't even know about this book until just a few years ago. A Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. I think I was doing a class from Hillsdale College while we were reading Huck Finn, and that's where I first heard about this book. Just happened to be searching through my library catalog the other day, looking for some more fiction, saw this one came up and thought, oh yeah, Mark Twain. I'm going to read that because I've read Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer multiple times, but I'm looking for something else in his catalog, so this one is going on my spring reading list. Of course, I always mention our read alouds. I try to do one a month with the kiddos. For whatever reason, we have been on a spree this year, and we've actually read, I think we've read 6, maybe not that many, maybe 5. So I put 4 on our list. We'll see if we get to all of them or not. One of them is kind of smaller, so I think we probably will. The first one is I Can Make This Promise by Christine Day. I believe this is her premiere novel, so she's relatively new to the scene. This is the story of a girl who, her mother is Native American and she's been adopted by a white couple, and she doesn't know a lot about her history. So when she has children, and this is told from the daughter's perspective, she doesn't have a lot of family history to pass on to them. However, the daughter discovers a box of mementos in the attic, and she begins to question her mother's honesty about their past, and it takes her on a journey of discovering who her family is. I think I heard about this one from Brave Writer. She will be coming out with her book picks for next year, probably at the end of May, and I think I caught this one from last year. The book after that one is City Spies by James Ponti. I don't know a whole lot about this one, other than I believe this is a series as well, and it's about like spy kids. If you remember the movies, I think from the 90s, that was called Spy Kids, I think this is going to have a similar feel where they are traveling all over the world. Their parents are spies and these kids become spies. I just thought it sounded like a fun read to throw in, possibly after something a little bit heavier. And I think that my 11-year-old will love it. And the other two read-alouds that we have on our list for the spring season are going to go along with next year's history curriculum. I started looking at Story of the World Volume 3 and realized there were so many read-alouds that I wanted to pull from that we're going to start a little bit early, especially since we didn't have a lot from Volume 2. So the first one is Avi, The Fighting Ground, of course, American Revolution, as well as Johnny Tremaine. Again, another American Revolution book. I have read this one with my oldest child, who is now a senior. So it's been a really long time. I don't think my daughter has ever read it, and I've never read The Fighting Ground. Avi is one of those authors that I've read some of his stuff, and I either loved or hated him. What is the Ragweed? Loved Ragweed, super cute book. We read Loyalty last year, which is another American Revolution book. We reviewed that one in January, so I will link my review down below. I was sort of iffy on that one. I think the thing is, with Loyalty, he wrote it like a journal, so it was hard to read aloud. And I'm discovering that The Fighting Ground is written in the same way. So we will, I don't know, we'll see. This may turn into an independent reader, but I would like to read it with the kids. I think it's a good author. Sometimes the format just makes it difficult to figure out where to break it up and still help them track with what's happening. So that's all the books on my spring reading list. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you're reading, or if any of these titles interest you and you're excited to hear more. Of course, every month at the end of the month, I will share with you what we've been reading, and that will include where we get to from this list. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.